Whose footprints are these?
This is Solid Snake. Welcome to 76 of an ongoing series where we basically take the camera anywhere we want, and we try to find secrets and new discoveries to some of our favorite games. And let's see here. Boundary break. Off-camera secrets. A magic camera? Are you kidding me? Now, what did I sign up for here? I guess we can comb Shadow Moses one more time. Commencing operation.
Thank you, Snake. Okay, so the first thing I want to look at is right here at the very beginning of the game. And as you know, you swim into this elevator area, but you're not allowed to walk back from where you came from. So if you take the camera over here, you can see that the developers optimized this space. There's nothing to really look at, which is something you would typically expect. But regardless, there actually is something kind of interesting in this area. That water effect that you're looking at is pulled off in a very clever way. Due to limited technology at the time, the developers of Metal Gear Solid manually manipulated all the areas underneath the water to give it a wavy effect. And of course, when we're looking at it from different angles where it doesn't look like there's water on the surface, it can almost look like jelly. And also, there's a very primitive reflection technique used in this area. You might notice that Snake doesn't have his character model underneath this puddle. Well, that's because these puddles are not puddles at all. They're actually specifically made environment to parallel what's going on above it, which, since it only gives the illusion of reflecting what is directly above the puddle, the game manages to save much more on resources in this way. Alright, now let's talk about Johnny Sasaki. Now, as a little Easter egg, you can catch Johnny on the toilet, and if you trigger this cutscene, he'll then walk out of the bathroom stall and go over by the cells. I just wanted to give you a visual of how that looks, because you're not really allowed to see it happen. But what's far more interesting is seeing what it looks like when Meryl takes Johnny's uniform. It's a little bit difficult to see, but here you can see Johnny walk over to his position where he's supposed to be completely disrobed. And if you look closely, there's actually two models of Johnny here, one where he's still in his uniform and the other where he's down to his underwear. And also, because we can take the camera anywhere, we can get a better look at Johnny's face. And just to absolve any confusion here, I know that normally he's supposed to be naked, but in the Japanese version of Metal Gear Solid, as well as the PC version, they cut Johnny a little bit of slack and gave him some underwear.
Looks like we'll be a little delayed.
What are you doing? Don't think, shoot!
This one was an excellent viewer request. As always, if you ever want to suggest something for an episode that I'm currently working on, you can follow me right here on Twitter. And the suggestion made here was, where does the guards come from when they're coming through the door during the scene where you first meet Meryl? And this one might be one of my favorite scenes, I can't lie. The guards actually spawn in one of two positions, and every time they do spawn, the character model warps in horizontally before quickly adjusting itself to a normal vertical stance, doing a little bit of planking before planking was even a thing. Someone also wants to know how the elevators work. The first thing I want to show you is that the developers use culling to save on resources until you open the elevator door. But that's not what people actually want to know. It's when you're inside the elevator and you're going to a new floor, how does it look? Well, as it turns out, the elevator doesn't move at all. And in fact, once you get onto a new floor, that's not even the same elevator that you stepped into. Because you might notice on this one frame, the position of the elevator completely shifts, as well as immediately showing the new area. This is because a completely new map is loaded in, and the position of the elevator on this new map is slightly different from where the position is of the elevator in the other map. Hey, you know when you sneak into Shadow Moses' facility through the vents? Well, if for whatever reason you decide to go back out to the helicopter pad, you might remember there's a view of the outside from inside the vent. What we're looking at here is just a 2D texture that represents that outside. And you might notice it's actually quite a ways away from where the vent ends. Also, here's a zoom out of the first area inside of Shadow Moses' base. Now let's talk about one of the first boss fights, the tank. As many of you already know, this tank is helmed by Vulcan Raven, and every once in a while he'll pop his head out and laugh at you. Of course, I wanted to see what was inside of the cockpit. And interestingly enough, the inside of the cockpit is just a very small square, and Vulcan Raven himself clips through that square to have an entire character model that isn't really seen by the player. And once he goes inside the tank, Vulcan Raven just culls out. In the Warhead facility, you can finally see Otacon for the first time. Granted, you only see him in this way if there's a little Easter egg, and as a result, it only shows you just a little bit of the other side of the wall where Hal Emmerich is staying. So if we move the camera into that area, you can see there's next to nothing inside of this place, only enough to show the player that Hal is over there. Next up is what happens to Meryl when she runs into the women's bathroom. In normal gameplay, you can see her run into the women's bathroom, but the second that you try to make chase, you go up to the stall where she changed out of her uniform, and she gets the jump on Snake.
That's the second time I've been able to sneak up on the legendary Solid Snake.
However, if we have the cameras set in place, we can see that she just disappears the second she gets to the stall. But even then, the clothes aren't on the stall just yet. It's not until Snake gets close enough to the stall that the clothes are loaded in. But funny enough, the gun that Meryl uses in the cutscene is still in the map even after the cutscene's done. It's just on the other side of the mirror. So some folks want to know if the laser sight that Sniper Wolf was using is accurate to her actual position on the other side of the map, or if she's even at the other side of the map at any given time. And I'm very happy to say that yes, it is. Sniper Wolf will be rendered into the game, and she will be pointing her sight at you. Though funny enough, before you even engage her in any sort of way, there's already blood textures in her sniper nest. Meaning those blood spots don't land there in real time, it's just there the entire time. And of course, with an area this large, we gotta do a zoom out, because I just can't believe that none of this is culled out.
Snake, it's showtime. Ocelot wants you.
So during the torture scene with Ocelot, you got the camera moving around in a whole bunch of different ways. Either it's pointed at Snake himself, or you get into a first-person perspective with Snake. What happens when we look at the scene from a different angle when it's in the first-person mode? Well, you can see at this very moment that when Snake goes from third-person to first-person, his character model just disappears outright so that the camera can rest in his position without being obstructed by polygons. And the same can be said for Snake when he's dragged away to his prison cell. It's the camera itself that's actually moving around. So when you look at it from a different angle, all you just see is just Ocelot standing there looking at nobody.
Oh, my stomach!
And we got ourselves another Johnny Sasaki moment, where Johnny gets the Run's Nest to go to the bathroom. Most of this is supposed to take place off camera, with your only visual cues being what's on your radar. But if we take the camera into the bathroom, we can see Johnny standing in there, and then the second that Otacon comes into play, that's when Johnny disappears.
I'm here. Where?
After defeating Sniper Wolf, Snake fulfills Sniper Wolf's final request. Now in the Twin Snakes remake episode that I did, which I'll link to down below in the video description, there was a textured wound for Sniper Wolf underneath the handkerchief. But here in the original game, you can see no matter how well you position the camera, the polygons for Sniper Wolf's face end at her chin. Another viewer request is for the trap pits. Now there isn't too much to say about them, and unfortunately with the limitations of the camera that I have here, I can't show you what happens to Snake when he falls down the hole. But at least from another perspective I can show you just how deep the hole is, and show that there really isn't anything in particular at the bottom. Also, I want to show you a nice zoom out of Metal Gear itself. Usually they zoom the camera out just a little bit, but still kind of keep it at the player's perspective. But here we can see Metal Gear all in one shot, while also engaging with Solid Snake. After you defeat Metal Gear, the hangar that you fight in is completely crumbled. And of course, I just wanted to see how much of this rubble is actually back here. So in order to do that, we do a little bit of a zoom out. Now during the escape sequence, you're driving down a long road. Maybe a little bit too long in fact, because even though most of the environments in Metal Gear Solid can be really expansive for some reason, without any culling whatsoever, here on the escape route, areas are loaded into chunks. And then when Liquid catches up to you, the environment just goes on repeat, reintroducing parts of the tunnel that were already shown to the player once before, seamlessly so that it can continue the scene for as long as it needs to. And of course, how can we do an episode on Metal Gear Solid without a zoom out of the outside of Shadow Moses base? guys, thank you so much for watching. First of all, huge thank you to David Hayter. I couldn't believe he guested on this show. It's pretty amazing. He has two things going on right now. There's a video that he did on Bun's life, as well as a horror movie trailer that he's going to be doing. I got links to both of those things down below. It's very interesting. If you love David like I do, you definitely should check it out. Anyways, Openak, thank you so much for doing the animated intro. Openak has his own YouTube channel with tons of cartoons. He updates it seemingly regularly, so it's definitely worth your time to check it out. He's a very talented man. And yeah, if you haven't already, check out these 3 episodes that I feel like is a good, strong connection to this episode you just watched. See if you like more Boundary Break. And if you want to stay tuned for Boundary Break, we got these 3 episodes coming out in early 2018, and that's a promise. So anyways, guys, I'm freezing my butt off here. I'm going to go inside, and I just wish you a happy week. Take care.